feel compelled to raise this. Oh, well, maybe not. Oh, there it is. Okay. Well, thank you all very much to our graduates, to faculty, to staff, to Dean Fitzsimmons, to all the family members out here. What a joyous evening this is. You know, it's an honor to be president of Kansas State. It's an even bigger honor to participate in ceremonies like this, because one of the reasons I changed from interim to putting my name in the hat for being the full-time president was the fun I was having. And there's nothing more fun than graduation, because you see the fruits of lots of labor. You see over there above their heads lots of light bulbs that have come on over the last several years. They're shining brightly, and they're going to stand us in good stead as they take on the challenges that we all face. So it's a real honor to be your president. It's also a particular honor to be here tonight and be with you tonight. A couple of comments here. When I was thinking about what do I say, I went back to my graduation year, 1965. She was not going to say it. It was 51 years ago, I guess, basically. And I thought about what was the world that I entered then, and how did we think about it? Some of you will not remember 1965, but I'm going to remind you of the 60s. I'll remind you of the 60s here a little bit. It was a year, or that was a decade, where our president was assassinated, John F. Kennedy. It was a year when his brother, running for president, the Attorney General, was assassinated. It was a year when Martin Luther King was assassinated. It was a year where the decade when our time in Vietnam began. Very controversial, of course, here in the United States and worldwide. It was the Cold War, where we lived under sort of the fear of a nuclear holocaust of some sort. So that was sort of the daily, or at least weekly or monthly thoughts we'd be thinking about. Could this be a nuclear war right around the corner? Those were the kind of things that we thought about. And of course, a lot of those, Vietnam and the civil rights movement, there was a lot of division in this country. And if you just took a snapshot of that century and said, wow, we don't have much hope as a nation, you'd have been wrong, because there was a lot of people that worked very hard, a lot of dollars spent, a lot of lives lost, unfortunately, and a lot of intellectual energy used to try to fix that. And I think for the most part, some of those things I mentioned, we have done a fair job of fixing. So let's come forward 51 years. What do you all face, and how's it compare? And so the first thing that comes to me, of course, is we just came out of a political campaign where we are probably more divided politically and wider division than I've been in my lifetime, or that I've noticed. And so we are divided a lot like the decade of the 60s. We've come to realize that this global warming thing is perhaps real and perhaps caused by humans, and that we're on a path that if we don't do something about it, life could be a lot different in the future as we try to survive on this planet of ours. We've got economic issues. We've had them for many years now, one of which is just providing everybody in society some share of economic prosperity. We've got fiscal issues in this country that we have not solved yet, and we'll see how that goes. We've got energy issues. You know, how are we going to use the energy sources that are more friendly to the environment? So we've got all these issues. The rest of the world, poverty, disease, hunger. You can't pick up a paper without seeing refugees moving around in various parts of the world, including the Middle East in particular, but Africa and other places where people are and families are really suffering. And I would say, from a security standpoint, yes, the Cold War is over, but the uncertainty today in our security situation is worse than it was then.